So you're in your 20s, 30s, or maybe even 40s and beyond, and you think to yourself, why aren't I further along in my life financially? I've been there too. This video is for anyone who feels like they're behind in life financially or just feels like it's too late to get ahead financially. If that's you, let's see if by the end of this video, we can paint a different picture. So let's talk. I was fortunate to have grown up in the 80s and 90s in a loving home with a father who worked very hard to provide for his family and a mother who was always there to support my dad and to also raise me and my sister with an abundance of love. I had a pretty normal childhood. I went to public school, participated in extracurricular activities, and studied hard so that I could eventually graduate high school with the aim of going to college so that I could do what everyone else did, and that's to find a specific job or career. Now, we definitely didn't lack anything growing up, but we certainly weren't rich either. Outside of my parents telling me to save money, I don't really remember any mentions of personal finance or how to manage money growing up, not even in my high school or even college. Now in my 20s, I ended up graduating college and I tried my hand at many different career paths, from working in ministry for many years to music production, and I was also in the financial services industry and I worked as a banker. I guess you could say I was on my path to self-awareness and self-discovery in my 20s doing so many different things, but I realized I worked so hard, but I had nothing to show for it. I realized that if I didn't take initiative to learn about personal finances on my own, that I wouldn't have a stable future for myself and even my future family. At that point in my later 20s, I started to pick up personal finance books and I started to learn a little bit more about the basics of money and how to budget and manage my own money. And I even started to learn about the concepts of investing. Up until that point, I really didn't think investing was for the common person. That's how little I knew about personal finances. I mean, I thought investing was what the people on Wall Street did. As I was learning more about personal finances, I realized that the credit card debt that I had accumulated up to that point, and it was a lot, couple that with the student loans that I had from school, I needed to do something fast. Now, I'd like to say that I began to tackle that debt head on, but no. Instead, I kept pushing off the debt because in my mind, I wanted to make more money first before I start really focus on paying down the debt. I wasn't doing anything actively to try to get out of debt fast or even sooner. Fast forward into my lower 30s and I discovered the world of real estate investing. I found a little bit of success as a wholesaler, and I also, with a partner, purchased a property and fixed and flipped it. I started to make a little bit more money at this point, and I finally decided to start paying down the mountain of debt that I had. Now, up to this point, I haven't accumulated any wealth. I didn't have any assets or investments, maybe outside of just a little bit of money in my savings account. I started to feel very behind. I knew that I needed to do something. I knew that I wasted all of my 20s and there was that opportunity cost of not putting my money to work then. But something else started happening around this time. Again, I was in my lower 30s and I started to realize that the people around me, my friends, whether they were the people that I grew up with or my friends' circle, I noticed that everyone at this point started to have stable careers. They were married, starting a family, they owned homes, they were investing in their 401ks, and I had none of that. I felt so behind and so discouraged at that point. I knew I needed to do something, and I knew I needed to do something big and drastic. So what did I do? I literally dropped everything I knew, took the chance of a lifetime, and moved halfway across the world to start my life over in South Korea. Wait. Before you write me off as irresponsible or he's just running away from his money problems, there was a reason behind doing that, I promise. I had many reasons for wanting to move to Korea. A lot of them were personal, but one of the main reasons was for me to once and for all figure out exactly what I wanted to do with my life. Throughout my time in Korea, I've been able to recalibrate and to really figure out what my purpose is and really develop even more self-awareness. And a big part of that recalibration was to get my money right. I started a freelance career around my newly found passion, and I started to increase my income. Then I really put a heavy focus on building up my fully funded emergency fund, and then I actively started to invest. All of this in my lower to mid 30s. You see, I just turned 37 years old, and there's still times where I feel like I'm financially behind. And you watching this video, you might feel the same way. So let's talk about why that is. We live in a world where we as human beings compare ourselves to one another on a daily basis. In fact, according to Psychology Today, research shows that up to 10% of our daily thoughts involves comparisons. And if you're addicted to Instagram, well, it's probably around 70%. At least that's my observation anyway. There's what's known as the social comparison theory, which was coined by psychologist Leon Festinger. And this theory basically states that we as human beings, we're always in this cycle of comparing ourselves to one one another in different areas such as attractiveness, intelligence, success, and of course, you guessed it, wealth. And this is one of the reasons why a lot of times we feel like we're not doing enough financially or it's just too late to catch up. There are many other reasons why we might feel like we're behind in life. When it comes to financial education, again, I don't remember having a class where we talked about how to manage money or even what investing is. Another reason is perhaps your parents didn't have a strong financial foundation or the education to be able to pass on any financial knowledge to you. When it comes to higher education, at least in the United States, it's absurdly expensive to even attend a public university, let alone a top-notch private university. We're encouraged to take out student loans to subsidize our education if we're not able to afford it ourselves because it's gonna be worth it in the end, right? Wrong. So many millennials and Gen Zers are starting their adult life in the red. Many of them have taken out $50,000 or even up to $100,000 of student loan debt or even more just to be able to get through an education, to graduate college, and to hopefully find a job that their college degree was in, only to find that maybe it's not as easy to get a job, or perhaps they get a job in a field that's totally unrelated to the degree that they spent all that money for. To make matters worse, housing prices, which has traditionally been a way for millions of Americans to be able to own and accumulate wealth, has skyrocketed at an astronomical rate. In fact, since 1965, median home prices has increased an inflation-adjusted 118%, while median household incomes have only increased 15%. When you put all of these factors together, it's no wonder why so many of us feel so far behind the financial curve. So what do you do if you're in a place where you feel so far behind, no matter what your age is, whether you're in your 20s or in your 50s? What do I tell myself when I'm dealing with these feelings? Let me keep it absolutely real with you, and let me speak to you as if we're best friends, because I feel like what I'm about to say is going to help reshift your perspective. Let's start with some emotional solutions to feeling behind in life financially. The first thing that you need to do is stop comparing yourself to other people. Stop it. Really, stop it. Think about this. Someone who is earning $1 million a year, who has nice cars and a nice house, could be absolutely miserable in their life. They don't enjoy what they do. All the things that they've accumulated means nothing to them. They have no happiness in their life. Versus maybe someone who's making $50,000 a year, who is living a very nice and modest, simple life, might be extremely fulfilled and they might be very happy. So I don't think it's healthy, or I don't even think it makes sense to compare yourself to someone else, because everyone else's life is different. Speaking of comparison, remember the social comparison theory we mentioned earlier in the video? Well, let's flip that for a second. Not all comparison is bad. Sometimes even comparing yourselves to other people can motivate you. Now, a perfect example of this is whenever I'm around people who are far more successful than me, maybe they are successful entrepreneurs, or maybe they even accumulated a lot of wealth. For me, that generally motivates me now. Whereas maybe 10 years ago, I would have compared myself to them and I would have been discouraged. And so you can use comparison to your advantage and let that motivate you, or let that help you to come up with your own benchmarks in terms of leveling up financially or getting ahead. And one of the most important things when it comes to emotional solutions to feeling behind in life is forgiveness. Forgiving yourself. I think this is super important because a lot of us, we've made mistakes in the past that has put us in the position that we're in right now. We can't change the past, but what you can change is what you do moving forward. So in many ways, you can determine how your future turns out. We all make mistakes. Maybe we just didn't have the financial knowledge to know what the right decisions to make were. I know for me, I've gotten into a lot of debt in my 20s, but I've forgiven myself. It took me years to get to that point, and I know I'm never gonna get into credit card debt again. You can leverage the mistakes that you've made in the past to help you guide your decisions for the future. And enough with the motivational talk, let's talk practical solutions you can take to help you to move forward financially. Now, the one thing that you can do starting right now, today, is to manage your money. One of the best ways to manage your money is through a budget. There are a ton of different ways in which you can budget, but the main thing is you wanna be aware of what your income is and then also what your expenses are, and you want to do everything in your power to lower your expenses. Maybe those subscription services or satellite TV that you have that you don't even watch, cut those things out. That way you have more discretionary spending or more room in your budget to be able to put towards things that's going to help you in your financial future. Now, another thing that you want to do is you want to figure out if there are ways that you can increase your income. Now, this can also be done in many different ways. For some, you might be able to increase your income with your current job or position. Like, for example, if you're in sales, how can you make more sales this year to increase your income? For others, it might be time for you to actually gather up your confidence, go to your employer or your boss and ask for that pay raise that you deserve because you're adding so much value to the company. Get maybe a part-time job or start a side hustle or side business where you can generate extra income a month. And with this increased spending, what you're gonna do is, if you have debt, you wanna knock that debt out first. Now, I'm not including your mortgage in this if you have a mortgage, but if you have credit card debt, student loan debt, an auto loan, any sort of debt, a personal loan, you want to prioritize getting out of that debt first. And the reason for that is the sooner that you get out of debt, the sooner you can use that extra money that you'll be saving from not having to make those debt payments to actually putting that towards your future. Once you've optimized your expenses and you've gotten out of debt, now is the time for you to increase your savings rate. Essentially, your savings rate is just the percentage of your income that you decide to save every month. For a lot of people, they might save only 5 or 10% every single month, but you want to supercharge this, especially if you feel like you need to catch up a little bit financially, which is fine. Up that savings rate as much as you can. I actually upped my savings rate to about 60% of my total income. For you, that number might look different depending on your goals. Once you've increased your savings rate, now it's time to put your money into wealth generating assets. And these assets can be in the stock market, whether it be individual stocks or my personal favorite, index funds, or even ETFs that track a certain index. You just simply put your money in and just let it ride out. And this is how millions of people have generated wealth for themselves. And it doesn't really take a lot of work, but there are many different strategies around this, and it really depends on what you want to do and what your goals are. Another awesome wealth generating asset is real estate investing. And this is another great way for you to grow your wealth. There are many options out there. You just have to do your research and figure out which is right for you. Now, these are some of the practical solutions that's going to help you with that feeling of being behind in life financially, and also it's going to help you emotionally. If you take anything away from this video, let it be to reshift how you view yourself in terms of feeling financially behind, and reshift that focus to how can I take actionable steps today that's going to help me to grow wealth and achieve financial independence. And hey, if you want to know how to get started with stock market investing, then make sure you check out this video right here once this video is done, because it's going to give you a broad overview of how to get started with stock market investing, what your options are, and it's ultimately going to help you to achieve financial independence. All right, everyone, I hope this video was helpful for you. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.